Two travelers visited Europe during the same summer. Both planned the same dream vacation. Paris, Rome, Barcelona. Beautiful streets, luxury cafes, perfect photos. Everything looked identical at first, but one decision changed everything later. One traveler bought the cheapest insurance available online. The other bought proper travel insurance with full emergency coverage. At first, both believed they made smart choices, especially the traveler who saved money on insurance. He laughed and said, "Why waste extra money on expensive coverage?" His friend stayed quiet, because he understood something important. Travel emergencies do not ask for permission before arriving, and sometimes, one small problem becomes a financial disaster within hours. Cheap versus safe. The two travelers were named Alex and Daniel. Both were excited for Europe. Both had similar budgets. Both booked beautiful hotels. And both believed this trip would become unforgettable, but for very different reasons. The first few days felt perfect. They walked through crowded tourist streets, took photos near famous landmarks, tried expensive restaurants, visited museums. Everything felt magical. Then something unexpected happened, and everything changed instantly. Late one evening in Italy, Alex suddenly felt severe stomach pain. At first, he ignored it. He believed it was just food poisoning, or maybe exhaustion. But the pain became worse every hour. His breathing became difficult, sweat covered his face, and eventually, he collapsed inside the hotel room. Daniel panicked immediately. He called emergency services. Within minutes, an ambulance arrived. And that's when the real comparison began. Alex believed everything would be simple, until the hospital staff asked about insurance. The cheap insurance policy looked official. It looked professional. But hidden inside the policy were dangerous problems. Very low emergency coverage, no direct hospital payment support, limited emergency transportation protection, and multiple hidden exclusions. Alex suddenly realized something terrifying. His cheap insurance might not fully protect him at all. Meanwhile, Daniel showed his insurance documents calmly. His policy included emergency hospitalization, ambulance coverage, emergency medical treatment, hospital coordination support, and direct emergency assistance. Immediately, the hospital handled his paperwork differently. The atmosphere changed completely. Daniel noticed something shocking. The difference between cheap and safe insurance was becoming obvious in real time. Alex's stress increased every minute. The hospital requested payment guarantees immediately. Emergency treatment costs continued rising. Every test added more charges. Every scan increased the bill. And honestly, Alex had never imagined Europe could become this expensive during emergencies. Most travelers never realize this before traveling. They focus on flights, hotels, tourist attractions, shopping. But emergencies do not care about vacation plans. And when medical problems happen abroad, financial reality becomes terrifying very quickly. The hospital staff explained Alex's situation carefully. Emergency scans, blood tests, specialist treatment, observation costs, medication. Everything carried separate charges, and his total bill was only getting worse. Alex checked his bank account repeatedly. Not enough money. He checked his credit cards. Still not enough. Panic slowly replaced confidence. Meanwhile, Daniel remained calm, because his insurance company immediately contacted the hospital directly. Most of the major costs were already being handled. And honestly, that emotional difference became even more important than the financial difference, because emergencies abroad become emotionally overwhelming very fast. One traveler experienced protection, the other experienced panic. That difference came from one decision made before the flight. 5,000 euros. Loss. Alex started calling family members desperately. His voice was shaking. He tried explaining the situation, but even he could not fully understand the financial damage yet. The hospital costs continued increasing. And then something even worse happened. Doctors recommended additional overnight observation. That meant higher bills, more treatment costs, more stress. And honestly, Alex's nightmare was only beginning. Daniel watched everything carefully, and for the first time, he truly understood the importance of proper travel insurance himself. Before the trip, even he thought good insurance felt expensive, but now, the difference looked life-changing. Most travelers search for the cheapest policy possible. They believe basic coverage is enough. But cheap travel insurance often hides dangerous limitations. Low coverage limits, emergency exclusions, weak hospital support, complicated claim systems, and sometimes completely rejected claims. That becomes extremely dangerous during real emergencies abroad, especially in Europe, because hospital costs can rise quickly. Many tourists believe Europe is cheap for healthcare. That is not always true for visitors. Private hospitals, emergency transportation, specialist treatment, medical observation. All of these services become expensive very quickly without proper insurance support. Alex learned this the hardest possible way. Every hour increased his stress. Every new medical update increased financial fear. Instead of enjoying Europe, he spent his vacation worrying about debt. And honestly, that emotional pressure became unbearable. Daniel's situation remained completely different. His insurance company guided him step by step. Emergency support remained active. Hospital coordination became smooth. And financially, he felt protected. That difference created peace during a crisis. And peace becomes priceless during emergencies abroad. Most travelers underestimate emotional stress during medical emergencies, until it happens personally. Alex barely slept that night. Fear filled his mind constantly. How much would the final bill become? Would the insurance reject more claims? Could he afford everything? Would he need loans later? The questions became endless. Meanwhile, Daniel focused on helping his friend emotionally. But internally, he kept thinking about one thing. What if I also bought cheap insurance? That realization changed his understanding of travel completely. Big subtitle, Travel Warning. The next morning, the hospital delivered another cost update. Additional treatment, more testing, extended observation. The estimated total now approached €5,000. Alex stared at the paper silently. His face lost color. At that moment, the Europe vacation no longer mattered. The tourist attractions no longer mattered. Only survival and financial fear mattered now. And honestly, this happens to tourists more often than people realize. Many travelers post beautiful vacation photos online, but nobody shows the financial panic happening behind medical emergencies abroad. Because those moments become deeply emotional, and often humiliating. Alex slowly realized the biggest mistake was never the emergency itself. The biggest mistake happened before the trip even started. Choosing cheap insurance without understanding the policy. That single decision changed everything later. Travel insurance is not just paperwork. It is financial protection, emotional protection, emergency support. And sometimes, it becomes the difference between panic and peace. Daniel's insurance policy cost more initially, but during the emergency, it protected thousands of euros instantly. That's why cheap insurance sometimes becomes the most expensive mistake later. Most tourists never think about this before traveling. They only compare prices, not real protection. That becomes dangerous during emergencies abroad, especially in unfamiliar countries. Alex's hospital discharge finally arrived 2 days later, but the emotional damage stayed much longer. He left the hospital physically weak, financially terrified, and emotionally exhausted. Meanwhile, Daniel left with peace of mind. Protection changed everything. And honestly, that comparison became unforgettable for both travelers. Many cheap travel insurance policies advertise Europe coverage, but hidden inside the documents are serious problems. Limited emergency support, restricted treatment categories, complicated reimbursement systems, weak emergency coordination, and hidden exclusions most travelers never read carefully. That's why understanding insurance matters more than simply buying insurance, because not all policies provide real protection. Some only provide the appearance of protection, and during emergencies, that difference becomes terrifyingly clear. Alex returned home with financial pressure waiting for him, phone calls, payment concerns, stress. Months later, he still regretted one simple decision: trying to save money before the trip. And sadly, millions of travelers continue making the same mistake every year. Most people never expect emergencies during vacations. That's completely normal, but emergencies happen anyway. Accidents happen, illness happens, unexpected situations happen, and preparation becomes everything when those moments arrive. Imagine two travelers again. Same destination, same emergency, completely different outcomes. One receives support, The other receives panic. One feels protected, the other feels trapped. One continues the trip safely, the other returns home emotionally destroyed. That difference comes from preparation, and smart preparation matters more than people realize. A strong travel insurance policy should include emergency hospitalization, ambulance support, emergency medical treatment, medical evacuation, hospital coordination, 24-hour emergency assistance, and clear emergency coverage limits. Travelers should always read policy details carefully, understand exclusions, verify emergency support, confirm hospital coverage, and avoid choosing policies based only on price, because cheap insurance often becomes expensive later, especially during real emergencies abroad. Alex eventually admitted something painful. He said, "I thought I was saving money, but I almost destroyed my entire trip." That sentence perfectly explains the hidden danger many travelers ignore. Travel safety is not only about avoiding danger physically, it is also about avoiding financial disaster emotionally, and proper preparation protects both. The emotional difference between Alex and Daniel remained shocking. One emergency changed their understanding of travel forever. One learned through panic, the other learned through protection. And honestly, that comparison tells the real story better than any advertisement ever could. Travel insurance feels unnecessary until the exact moment you truly need it. And when emergencies happen abroad, that decision suddenly becomes one of the most important decisions of your entire trip. Many tourists visiting Europe continue making dangerous assumptions. They believe, "Nothing bad will happen," or "Cheap insurance is enough." But emergencies abroad do not care about optimism. And financial consequences become very real very quickly, especially when hospital bills start arriving. That's why preparation matters, protection matters, and understanding travel insurance matters more than most tourists realize. Alex and Daniel eventually returned home, but they returned with completely different memories. One remembered fear, the other remembered safety. One remembered debt, the other remembered peace of mind. And honestly, that difference began before the vacation even started. It began with one decision: cheap insurance, or safe insurance. Before traveling internationally, always ask yourself one important question. If an emergency happens tomorrow, will my insurance truly protect me? Because that answer can change your entire future abroad. Subscribe to Global Policy Guide for travel safety awareness, travel insurance education, visa updates, tourist warning stories, hospital cost reality, and real travel risks travelers never expect. Travel smart, stay protected, and never let one emergency destroy your dream trip.